All right. Hello, everyone. We are live on YouTube. I am JD Duran. I'm here with our awards editor, Shadan Larkey. Shadan, how are you this evening?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for introducing me because introducing myself is a literal nightmare. So I appreciate that very much. And
Yeah,
hello
no.
to the couple people that are watching so far. Please stay with us. I feel like this is going to be a very interesting conversation because there are things that we've been wanting to talk about that we've been holding on to, and now here we are. So
Yes. Yes. I'm excited. So Shadan has a Chasing the Gold episode. Her initial reactions are already out. I have tweeted some reactions, but I haven't had an opportunity to talk about them in this kind of format. And of course, for those that are watching, we would love to hear from you as well. So if you leave a comment uh, throughout the stream here, we will get to all of your comments or try to get to them if we can as this conversation goes. So please feel free to comment, chime in. We want you to be a part of this conversation. And of course, subscribe to the channel and like the video and all that fun stuff. So, Shadan, let's dive in. Are you ready to dive into these Oscar nominations?
I am. And just a quick programming note for everybody. I kept up my initial predictions just as a to be able to do this with you. But after we get off here, I'm gonna go in, wipe the slate clean, and start ranking people. So if you want to see everything I got wrong, you can go to the In Session Film Oscar predictions page right now because it's
Yeah.
still up there.
Well, speaking of getting things wrong, my predictions, shockingly, were not as good as yours. I got quite a bit wrong, but I purposely took some big swings just because there was a lot of I want this to happen and I'm praying for it to happen, knowing that it was not going to happen most likely. So we could certainly dive into all of that. Let's also just throw out the caveat that Shadan is our awards editor. This is her field of expertise. This is what she's really great at. I'm just a film lover and I have a deep love-hate relationship with the Oscars and award season.
Which I think we might be getting into
Yeah, maybe
very
a little
shortly.
bit.
But
Maybe a little bit.
can I just brag on myself because I think
Yeah.
this year might have been my very best year of predicting. I got like 84% overall and
Hey, look
91%
at
without
that.
the shorts, which is like really good. 10
Yes.
years out of school and I'm still dorking out about my very good
Love
grades. So
it.
I'm super proud of myself.
As
Texted
you
my
should
mom
be.
about it.
Yeah. As you
Yeah.
should be. No,
Yeah.
that's very exciting. Well, let's get into these Oscar nominations. Let's, of course, start off with Best Picture. We have Begonia, F1, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and Train Dreams. Let's just start broadly and then we'll get a little bit more granular as we go. Your overall thoughts on that crop of 10?
I mean, okay, JD, let's just right off the bat, how honest are we going to be here about our opinions? Like,
Oh, I'm going
are
to be
we,
super honest.
okay,
Yeah.
great. So we're not playing nice tonight for people watching. I think if we had even half of these nominees last year, Sean Baker would not be a 4-time Oscar winner right now. I think F1 is your doppelganger, Sean Baker, by the way.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
F1 is my number 10 in this list, and it's still better than at least 3 of the nominees we got last year. I think that's how strong this crop is.
Wow. Okay. Well, so this is such an interesting conversation already off the bat. Last year's nominations were strange for me as well. There was a lot to love. It certainly sounds like I'm much higher on Honora than you are. And I love Sean Baker generally, so I was excited to see him win. Even if Honora wasn't my favorite movie of last year. Last year, though, was interesting because I would argue 2024 is maybe an all-time year. I think it is elite. But the thing with 2024 is that it is held up by so many international films, under the radar gems, these indie films. Like I saw the TV Glow, for example. um, or I'm trying to think like Nickel Boys, like movies that didn't really have much of an awards push. Like the award circuit, was kind of like even a movie like Furiosa, which like got absolutely, it was so polarizing last year, but I think that's one of the best films of the decade. So so 2024 is on. 2025 is much more well-rounded in terms of, yes, you have your international films, and it was a great year for international releases. You had some great indie gems as well, but Hollywood certainly came to play in a much bigger way than it did last year. So it's an interesting conversation to be had in that regard. Um, F1, like I think it is by far the worst here. Like for me, it's not even close. Not
Well,
even, like I don't know. Like I was talking about this on social media a little bit as well. Like F1, and again, this is where I'm trying to not fall victim to artist sports, that thing that I've talked about so many times on the show before. Because I don't hate F1. I really like F1 a lot, actually. And I think Hans Zimmer's score is pulsating. I think there's fun to be had. I just don't think it's a movie that goes beyond its diverting qualities. There's no year end award sensibilities to that film at all. So the fact that it got 4 Oscar nominations or whatever it had, let alone Best Picture, is baffling to me. It is laughable at best, especially given how great 2025 was for F1 to get in there. It's a great reminder that as much fun as the Oscars is, and we love to celebrate these great movies, at the same time, it is born out of you have to pay to play.
sure.
And F1
Well,
certainly had the money to play.
Well, yeah, and that's, I mean, to go back to Honora, I mean, famously, like, Neon spent 8 times the budget of the film on the Oscar campaign. So that is very much a part of the conversation. But, JD, to sort of frame this entire overarching conversation, when you think of, in your personal opinion, your favorites, best, whatever you want to call it, how do you frame it for yourself? Because what I always say is there's like a couple things that I go back to, which is like, how likely am I to think about this movie again after I've seen it? How likely am I to recommend it to somebody? Does it bring me something that I haven't thought about before, whether big or small? Like, these are sort of questions that
Mhm.
I take into account. So F1, I watched it last night. I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was interesting, entertaining, all those things. But I can guarantee you I'm never going to think about it again. I'm probably
Mhm.
6 months from now won't even remember that I watched it. And I don't
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it. I think
Mhm.
it was perfectly fine, very
Mhm.
serviceable.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like I saw it last summer. I haven't really thought about it much. Didn't feel like I had much of an incentive to think about it, especially as far as like year end stuff goes. But here we are. It's nominated for Best Picture. I just don't think it goes above and beyond its its diverting qualities. Except I will make the exception for sound. I do think its sound nomination is more than warranted. That's really great. But beyond that, I just don't think there's much there as far as best of.
Right.
I truly don't understand that conversation, and I know that there's been some sentiment that it's not the worst of these nominees, and maybe that's a jab at something like Begonia. Perhaps that's where people are having an issue with some of these other nominees here. I like Begonia. I understand that it is polarizing. It's certainly not for everybody. I totally understand that. But I do like that movie. I think it gets like it. I think what I like about Begonia is that it's closer to something like Dogtooth or The Lobster than what we've seen recently from Lanthimos. And I tend to love that type of Lanthimos. And so I think I responded to Begonia maybe a little bit more as a result. Now, would I have nominated it for Best Picture? No. I wouldn't have put it in a 10 either, but I would take it over F1. Yeah, hands down. And the other 8 that we can get into, I would easily take over F1. There are legitimately 30 other movies at the very least that I would take over F1, maybe 50.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not even kidding.
That's how tonight's gonna go. Okay.
Yeah.
No, for me, in terms of the 10 nominees that we got, again, I think they're all solid. They're all fine. I genuinely don't dislike any of them. But if we're looking at what am I going to be thinking about 10 years from now, it's going to be Sinners, One Battle, Hamnet, Train Dreams, and potentially Begonia for me are like the standouts. But yeah, if I was making a list of 10, I mean, maybe I would sneak Begonia in there. That's a fun exercise for a future episode of Chasing the Gold. But
I do want to highlight a couple of comments here real fast. So my lovely son Sam is joining us. So hi, Sam.
Hi. I wasn't sure. I was like, is that somebody? You know, I was like, maybe it's not. I don't know.
That's my son. Yes. So
Yeah.
thank you, Sam, for joining us and listening to this, even though he really has no idea what we're talking about. But at some point, we can talk about K-pop Demon Hunters. He's a huge K-pop fan. And we'll be rooting for Golden big time, and of course the film for Best Animated Feature. So thanks, Sam, for being here. Also, thanks to Ian for his comment here. I was pretty bad as well at predicting what was getting nominated for the Oscars. Yeah, that's definitely me. That's 100% where I am. Shariel, thanks for joining us. Great
Hello.
to have you here as well. So yes, keep the comments coming as we dive into this year's Oscar nominations. Okay, so I don't want to get too sidetracked on the F1 thing. It's like, again, I don't think it's a top 50 movie from this year. I think I can leave it at that. The rest of these nominees here, though, I do think are really great, and I think that's why. Maybe to your opening statement, Shadan, why I think this crop is better than last year's. So for perspective, in my own personal top 10, I have One Battle After Another at number 1. That was my favorite film of the year. I had Sinners at number 3, Marty Supreme at 4, Sentimental Value at 5, Hamnet at 7.
Wow.
So as far as, so when I look at this crop of Best Picture nominees, that's what comes to mind first and foremost. That's why I don't want to get too sidetracked on the F1 thing, because several of my very, very favorite movies of the year are in this crop of 10. And that's worth celebrating. That to me is very, very exciting, especially for something like Sinners, right? And maybe that's where this conversation really should have started. 16, right? Nominations
16.
That film got, breaking the record. Smashing that record, which is incredible. And like, I know that maybe some people really just look at that movie as a music movie, and you almost forget that it's a horror film simultaneously, but it is a horror film. And because with the Academy's history with that genre, for this film to get 16 nominations is wild. Deserved, but still a little surprising nonetheless. And I guess I have to ask you now, Shadan, because it felt like all season long it was One Battle's award to lose, but with Sinners having 16, does that suggest this race is maybe much closer than me?
I don't think it's a suggestion. I think it's a full-on fact at this point that like it's not sewn up at all. There's clearly a lot of love across the board. Now, BAFTA nominations come out in 4 days. They come out January 27th. So that'll be a really big tell. I think if Sinners, I don't think it's going to do as well at BAFTA as it did at the Academy, obviously. But if it still shows up strongly across the board, then yeah, we're in for a real race. It's not over, JD. Not over at all.
Yeah,
Paul Thomas Anderson should be nervous right now. Not completely. I still think he's gonna win something, but this idea of a clean sweep, I don't think so.
Yeah, that was interesting, right? Because we all thought it was One Battle for Picture, PTA for Director. Seems pretty locked up, but not anymore. Not anymore. And I would just not only would it be awesome for Coogler to win, and I say that with all the love in my heart for PTA, and even though One Battle is my personal favorite film of the year, and again, this is the part of Oscars as sports that can drive me crazy because it splits fandoms and it creates rivalries that should be non-existent as far as I'm concerned. And maybe I'm preaching to the choir here, but I love One Battle. It's my favorite film. But if Sinners was to win, I would be ecstatic. I'm not going to be angry at that. I would absolutely love that. If Marty Supreme somehow surprised, I would love that. If Sentiment of Value somehow shocked the world, I would love that. There are some really great movies here.
Yeah,
And
and they're
if any of them win, I think we'll look back at them as worthy Best Picture winners.
yeah, took the words right out of my mouth. I think if we look back 10 years from now, this is still going to be a crop that holds up really, really well. There's something sort of timely and timeless about all of these. There was a really fascinating comment on X that somebody said, horror went from being the most overlooked genre in Oscars history to now having a horror film break the record for all-time nominations. I mean, you can't write this stuff.
Well, and not only that, but Amy Madigan gets in for Weapons, correct? And then also to Ian's point here, the Ugly Stepsister gets makeup and hairstyling, which was really fun. That was a really cool nominee. I very much agree.
Yeah, incredible nomination. I remember seeing that film and thinking like that would be such a cool Oscar thing, but it's not going to happen. But like immediately I flagged it. It's just an incredible, a really like weird movie. If you're not into horror, like that's not a good gateway film for non-horror fans by any means because it goes there as we should say, but a really, really inspired nomination and the kind of nomination that proves that these voters are actually paying attention.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I go back to a conversation that I think I was having with Brendan and actually with Megan Kearns, because we talked about this a little bit at the end of our review of 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. The the film that I skipped in my top 5 because I essentially read out my top 5 except number 2. My number 2 movie of the year was 28 Years Later. I think Danny Boyle's masterpiece. I think it's absolutely remarkable. And it felt like, I think maybe my biggest disappointment with that film getting overlooked this year, especially for something like cinematography, if it's not going to make it in for Best Picture, I think its craft absolutely should have been considered here. And it felt like there was a built-in excuse with the Academy because you were embracing horror this year. You had Sinners, you had Weapons, which was a talking point all award season, and clearly The Ugly Stepsister was top of mind, at least for makeup and hairstyling. So it felt like there was this built-in excuse to also embrace something like 28 Years Later. Ultimately, they didn't. And look, again, that's okay because oftentimes the best movies of all time, when you look at the all-time classic movies, the top 100 movies that are most talked about in cinema history, how many of them have won Oscars? Not many. Not many. And certainly most of them have never have not even nominated for Best Picture, let alone win Best Picture. Now, there are certainly some exceptions to that rule, but generally, like some of the best films of all time age without being in award season. I think 28 Years Later is going to be one of those examples.
Yeah, I really, really loved the film. But again, we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about the Academy and the awards apparatus. So I think 28 Years Later is an example of a studio not knowing what they had. Because I think if they had realized earlier, hey, this is a film with a lot of passion and real potential, and they put it out there, we would be having a different conversation right now.
That's true. And that's why it all comes back to marketing and campaigning, and
it's a game, and that's the thing that
you have to play the game.
You have to play the game, and that's what people don't understand is like, well, how did such and such get nominated? And it's because of the game, it's because of the campaign, it's because they were kissing babies and shaking hands in Los Angeles. I mean, JD, I mentioned this on Chasing the Gold, the most recent episode of Chasing the Gold. I get into this a little bit. I was in LA for a few days, and there were billboards for Kate Hudson everywhere. I was in my Uber drinking my Erewhon smoothie that I paid a ridiculous amount of money for, and she was everywhere. And I was talking to my friends in LA, and she was
Yeah.
doing events at karaoke bars and meeting everybody. She did interviews with everybody. I'm really annoyed that I didn't reach out to her PR team for In Session because I probably would have gotten it. Right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
so
Well,
that's what it takes.
well, if you start seeing billboards in the future for films that I champion, like a 28 Years Later, or the next Kelly Reichardt movie, or XYZ that I come on and I just shout about to the heavens on here, that's how you'll know I've won the lottery, because that's where my money is going, is putting up billboards for the movies that need the help.
Listen, JD, I watched The Mastermind because you recommended it, so it mattered to me. Okay,
Well, I appreciate that.
you
And that's
got
awesome.
one,
God damn it.
one viewer because of your
I love it. No, I
endless
love that.
rants about that film.
Wanted to highlight this comment from Josh. Delroy Lindo was the surprise of the morning. That was an awesome surprise. Like
Incredible.
I love Paul Mescal as much as everyone else. I am deeply, deeply in love with him. And I thought he was deserving of an Oscar nomination as well. But if he's going to miss for Delroy Lindo, I can live with that. I will not lose any sleep over this, especially because Paul Mescal, he's young. He'll have plenty of opportunities. He will for sure get more Oscar nominations and likely wins down the road. I love this for Delroy Lindo. A long time coming, a nice little makeup. Well, sort of. Again, I was talking with Brennan about this because you could look at this as a makeup for Da 5 Bloods, but at the same time, this was just worthy on its own. This was warranted, I think, on its own terms.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a nice surprise. I agree.
They're late to the party on Delroy Lindo, but I'm just so happy to finally have him be an Oscar-nominated actor. Just incredible. I wasn't predicting him. That was one. I'm happy to take that loss. Like, if I have to be wrong for Delroy Lindo, happily any time of the day. Interesting that he gets over Miles Catton, who was the SAG nominee, Best Supporting Actor from Sinners.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you want to say that's like maybe some youth bias or maybe just Delroy has more passion. Well, and Amanda, not to, I keep plugging Chasing the Gold, but in Chasing the Gold, she mentioned that Denzel Washington did an FYC event specifically tailored to Delroy Lindo. Mm-hmm. So again, and deservedly so. Like, just personally, I think my favorite nomination of the morning. There's another one that I loved a little bit more that we can get into, but just really, really happy for him. To have him and Bunmi Masaku is just incredible.
That was incredible. Yeah, I love those nominees. I do want to bring up a few more comments here. So again, my son Sam wanted to correct me. His favorite movie was Fire and Ash. My apologies. And I just said that he loved K-pop Demon Hunters. I don't know if I said it was his favorite movie. His favorite movie is Fire and Ash, and he did really like that a lot. Ian talking about Sentimental Value. Didn't get nominated for casting. That is interesting. That is such a fascinating irony. Yeah, we're going to nominate the entire cast, but we're not going to put him in best casting. What the heck is going on there? Explain that one, Shadan.
Well, I actually do. I think it makes total sense to me because I think because casting, JD, there's only 4 actors. A casting director has to cast background actors. They have to cast, like a whole sprawling supporting cast, something like The Secret Agent, where there's like hundreds of characters, going through decades and stuff like that. Sentimental Value is an acting achievement. It's not a casting achievement. Those are
fair
two
enough.
Very different.
All right. Yeah, that's fair. It's still a fun irony, though. It's still very funny to me. Here we got a comment from Fred. I really think Jacob Elordi is winning supporting. That makeup and acting win is the money. What do you think? Do you think Elordi takes that category?
I still think Papa Skarsgård is in the lead here, but we have a really fascinating dynamic here, JD, because Papa Skarsgård not nominated at SAG. So there's a world where Jacob Elordi wins SAG, and gets up there, and that sort of starts his momentum. The door is open for somebody to sneak in here. I love the Jacob Elordi nomination in Frankenstein. He's the best part of that film. And when I watched it, this is what was interesting to me that played out with the acting nominees. I'd be curious if anyone agrees. I remember watching Frankenstein and going, "Oh my God, Jacob Elordi would be so worthy of a nomination, but it's not going to happen." So the fact that he's actually here is so just again, I think this kind of thing shows that they're paying attention because I don't
Mm-hmm.
think the Academy from 10 years ago would have done this. Same thing with Inga Ipslater Lilius. She's my favorite part of Sentiment of Value, but I thought, oh, like she's not the name. Elle Fanning is the name. They'll probably go with Elle Fanning. That's fine. So to have
Mm-hmm.
them both be in there and have them embrace like the quieter performances, I think is just really, really interesting.
It is really interesting. And what was it you? I think I mentioned this on our Bone Temple conversation because I believe on what was it your predictions episode for Chasing the Gold? I'm trying to recall, but you were talking about the like how cool it is that they're recognizing this kind of performance that has all this makeup and he's like almost like reinventing how you can perform as a character like that. I'm paraphrasing something you said. It was along those
Yeah.
lines though. I thought about that a lot with the Bone Temple because what Chai Lewis Perry does in that film is very much the same thing. So it is really interesting. Like I wish the Bone Temple came out later in the year because if it came out during the summertime or in the fall season instead of January, I do wonder if Chai Lewis Perry would follow any Lordy's footsteps because they're very similar performances that are tender and warm and poignant underneath all of that makeup and that creature aesthetic that we see in both of those films. Yeah, so it is interesting, and look, my vote would go to Skarsgård. He was my personal pick for best supporting actor, but I love you, Lordy. Again, I'll be ecstatic no matter what. But there is something about Skarsgård in that film that just moved me deeply,
Yeah.
deeply, deeply
There's a
moved me.
it's interesting there with the supporting categories. I think there's a path for most of the contenders. I think there's a path for Jacob Elordi for sure. As the comment mentions, there's a really strong tie between makeup and an acting win. He has certainly been on the campaign trail. Oh my goodness, Jacob Elordi's been
Hmm.
everywhere, and he's so tall and charming, like impossible to
Very,
miss him.
yeah.
Papa Skarsgård also, doing his interviews with his boys and all that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
they want it, and that's fine. That's great.
Hmm.
I think the passion for Delroy is there. Like, there's a world where he could potentially surprise. I think Benicio, like he's still very much in the game. I'm not ready to count him out just because he lost the
Hmm.
Globe. I think pretty much everyone but Sean Penn. Not saying it's gonna happen. I'm not predicting. I'm saying there's a path. There's a possibility. The the door's open. It's probably going to
Yeah,
be Papa Skarsgård, but the door's open
probably.
for a surprise.
Yeah. Going back to horror, I like this comment about Crimson Peak. I thought that film was overlooked as well. And it's interesting because that film came out in 2015, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken. I kind of wonder what Crimson Peak, how that would have been received if it came out today. Because the Academy today is so very, very different than what it was a decade ago. And I do wonder, especially now that we've gotten all this love from Guillermo del Toro, if that is something that would be more embraced by the Academy in some way. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
certainly
because
an
was
interesting thought
Crimson Peak
exercise.
directly after The Shape of Water or directly
I
before?
think
It
it was
was
before, right
before, right?
before.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if Crimson Peak was like Guillermo del Toro's follow up to The Shape of Water, I think it would have
Yeah.
been much better received. Which is
Mm.
again, when they like you at the Academy.
Hmm. What do you think about this, Shadan? Does the Academy have something against South Korea? They seem
Well,
to only have access at the Oscars if it's a film directed from Bong Joon Ho.
we also had another comment about this, about the no other choice of it all, and the Park Chan Wook. Yes, people have rightly pointed out that he did potentially cross the picket line. I don't know a ton about the drama or the
Yeah.
controversy there, so I don't want to comment too much. But that is true. That's potentially a reason why there may be some resistance. But as you have rightfully pointed out, I mean, Park Chan Wook has been doing Oscar caliber work since Old Boy, which came out in 2003. So
Something
we're
like that.
looking
Yeah.
at 20 plus years of Oscar snubs for Park Chan Wook, and I mean, he was really out there this year as well. He's usually not on the award circuit. We don't really see him. So I'm not really sure where the disconnect is. My personal theory is that I think his work just leaves people a little bit cold. Um,
Yeah.
I, I if I just can speak for myself, I certainly feel that way. I think it is maybe a little bit style over substance. I think No Other Choice, like I admire it, but it was sort of tonally all over the place. So I can see why other films were maybe better, more to the Academy's taste. But I'm curious if you have a Park Chan Wook take here.
I mean, maybe this comes back to what you were saying earlier as far as how you look at a film artistically versus playing the game, and that being a big part of the conversation. Because, like 28 years later, I don't understand how you watch any Park Chan Wook film and go, nope, not interested.
Yeah.
No awards here. Editing, best cinematography, the performances. I just don't understand how you watch any of his movies and go, we're good here.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. It blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind.
And No
Like,
Other Choice is very much about, the economy and the job market and all these things that
yes,
we're, struggling with across the globe. So I thought that might
it's
be the
very
thing.
timely. Yeah.
It's very timely. I really thought if there was going to be a film that was going to be his breakthrough, it would be this one.
Yeah.
I think it just lost steam. Honestly,
Yeah.
JD, I think that's what it was. And Neon was just five. I mean, there was no way it was going to get all five of its films in there. It just
No,
wasn't going to
no.
happen.
And it's unfortunate because I do think No Other Choice should have been considered for director and picture. It absolutely should have been in for cinematography and editing. And if it was up to me, Son Ye Jin would have been nominated for supporting actress as well. She was in my personal five. I thought she was
Well,
phenomenal in that movie.
since we're talking about our favorite Oscar nomination, in my opinion, the best movie of 2025, a movie that I know you also love, JD, The Voice of Hin Rajab. I was predicting it, but I was nervous about it, and the fact that it got nominated, I'm just so thrilled that means that more people are going to see that film,
Yeah,
right?
I agree. Yeah.
And anytime somebody wants to come to me and be like, "Oh, awards don't matter, the Oscars don't matter," yes, they do, because I'll tell you what, The Voice of Hin Rajab is playing now at my indie theater in Houston, and the
Yeah.
tickets before NASCAR, I can show you like the literal proof of people now buying tickets and wanting to see it because of the nomination. Yeah. Like, I think that is so incredible and cool, and it means a lot to a country like Tunisia, to everything that's going on in Israel and Palestine, like bringing a light to that in a new way or a different way. And that GIF, that meme of Reese Witherspoon where she's like, women's stories matter, they just do, or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? I'm like, the Oscars matter. They matter.
Well, and that is the double-edged sword of the Oscars, because again, we open this conversation by laughing at the F1 nominations. And I do find that laughable. Like, my reaction to that when it pops up for Best Picture is like, what are we doing here? Like, this is just a joke. But the other side of that coin, the counter argument, is something like The Voice of Hin Rajab, right? Because that gets on people's radars, and now people are going to seek that out that otherwise have never heard of it. And that I do think is very important. It's a necessary watch. It's a difficult watch for sure, incredibly arduous, but a necessary, vital watch, and it's done really, really well. I love that film a lot as well. I'm really happy to see it get in there.
When we talk about a film that I'll be thinking about 10 years from now, The Voice of Hin Rajab, I truly, truly mean that. I mean, it's just incredible. And yeah, a necessary watch. A painful one, but a necessary one for sure.
Yep, completely agree. Switching gears here a little bit. So I have two comments I got to show off again. So bringing Sam back into it, thought Wicked should have been nominated, I think is what he's getting at there. So when I saw that comment, my initial reaction was, I think my wife stole his phone, but nope. There she is.
I agree. I wish I wish Erica was here because she'd be. That was okay. I got
I
2
know.
texts from Erica the morning of Oscar nominations. She went no 3. She said Kate Hudson question mark question mark question mark. F1 question mark question mark question mark, and then what happened to Wicked? What happened to
Yeah.
Wicked, JD? I was predicting it for 4 nominations. I
Yeah.
thought if anything, the great Paul Tazewell, the only I think first person in history to win an Oscar and Tony in the same year. I thought if anyone was coming back, it would be him. Floored. That
Mhm.
total goose egg for Wicked.
Yep. As the great Sean Fennessy said, found dead in a ditch. Wicked, found
Dead
dead
in
in
a
a
ditch.
ditch. Yeah. I was surprised that it got completely shut out. I don't think any of us expected it. We all knew it wasn't going to replicate what happened last year, but to be completely shut out, I don't know if I saw that coming, but people clearly just did not respond to it. I certainly didn't. I mean, I didn't really like the movie all that much, but I don't know. It's like I didn't like last year's movie all that much though either, and I was clearly in a minority when it came to that movie. So, uh, yeah, I
I
don't
think
know.
I think I'm like middle of the road on Wicked. I didn't dislike it by any means, but I'm not a super fan either. But like it should have at least been nominated for something. I swore that I was not going to change anything, and then at the last minute I put in Girl in the Bubble like in my top 5, and it still didn't get like anyway.
Yeah.
We
So
can
like,
get the best original song, but yeah.
aside from song, where else did you have it? Costumes
I had song, I had costumes, I had production design, and
and
visual effects.
visual effects. So I think Ian had a comment earlier. I'd have to go back and watch it, but yeah, Avatar Fire and Ash getting in for costume design is deeply hilarious. Like, I don't know what to make of that. But
I
okay.
mean, as our lovely Nadine pointed out, like they did actually make those costumes. They're not digital costumes, y'all. They are actual
Yeah.
costumes that they had a costume department. They didn't nominate CGI costumes. But I mean,
Which would have
I
been
think that
funnier if that was the
which would
case.
no, it would have been sadder. I would be even more sent into like tears
Yeah.
right now, JD. It would be very
Like,
upsetting. Don't put that
I
on.
just,
We don't need that voodoo energy out there, JD. No,
yeah, I
absolutely not.
just, yeah, that might be the actual real surprise. Like Del Orlando getting in was a great surprise, but Fire and Ash and costume just might be the I don't know if anyone saw this coming surprise of the morning.
Well, here's the
Yeah,
thing, and all season long, I was like, Avatar is gonna get in somewhere else, right? Like I just knew it. I was like, it's gonna be VFX and something else. But never in 1,000 years would I have predicted costumes.
costume
Like I would have predicted sound. I mean, song. I
sound.
would have predicted Miley
Yeah,
Cyrus.
Miley
Oscar
Cyrus.
Miley
Yeah,
Cyrus over costume design. Like
that made sense. Like I think, like yeah, everyone would have agreed with you on that, 100%. But instead, it's costumes, which
sometimes you
is
just
very
take the
funny.
LJD and you move on. You just be like,
Mm,
it is what it is.
yeah.
I never would have seen it coming in. Yeah.
But to that point, I saw a stat earlier. I wish I had the tweet so I could recognize who it was. But there was a stat going around. It was something along the lines of there were 8 categories this year that were filled completely by movies nominated for Best Picture, which doubled the record. The record was 4 previously, and this year it was 8, meaning that like is that just indicative of the quality of the movies at the top? Was it just that top heavy of a year, or are voters increasingly getting lazy in the movie watching in the nomination process and just voting for those at the top because that's all they're watching are the movies that are shortlisted or the movies that might be up for Best Picture? Because, and to your point about Wicked, and look, Wicked was a bigger movie, so maybe that's a bad example, but it feels like there is kind of this limitation of and this isn't just a this year problem. I feel like this has
No, it's a
happened.
trend. It's
It's a
absolutely a
trend.
trend. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you make of that?
And I mean, that's again because we had comments of like, why weren't you predicting Kate Hudson? Why do I think Amy Madigan? I was doubting her all season because it is increasingly difficult to be the only nominee from your film in any category. It just doesn't happen as much anymore. And I should point out, like, they did change the voting process this year. So you have to actually watch the films and show proof that you watch them. And what I think is that means that less people are going to vote and less people, because like, I feel like now you're only going to vote if you're passionate enough to sit down and watch all of these movies. So it kind of reminds me of in politics how you have less people vote for sort of like the off year races, and sort of in general, like, nobody in the United States votes as much as they should, even though it's like a easy thing to do to register to vote. I think the
Mhm.
same thing's happening with the Academy. I think the passion films are the films that are getting in.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and that actually kind of leads to a couple of comments here that I want to highlight. So there's this one about Sinners winning SAG during the voting. All films that have broken the record have won Best Director and Best Picture. And I guess we somewhat talked about that earlier as far as Sinners possibly overtaking one battle after another. But that's in direct contrast to this comment from Diego. Sinners will win 2 categories. So I don't know. What do you think, Shadan? Are you
I think
team Diego
sound.
or
No, I think Sinners is winning more than 2. I think sound is very much in play for Sinners. I would say it's current potentially there. I think cinematography, it's time for a female cinematography winner. I think people really want to see that happen.
Yeah,
So,
that'd be cool.
is
Yeah.
it going to win all 16 of its nominations? No, but I think we're going to look at a total that's far bigger than just 2 categories for sure.
Yeah. And Autumn Durald Archipel is the first woman of color nominated for that category for cinematography, and the first Filipino, I believe I read as well. If that,
Yeah,
I think that's right.
fourth a woman ever. So really happy for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very exciting. Yeah. Really like that a lot. Um, okay. So I want to ask about Best Actress. I want to go here.
Yeah,
Because,
let's just rip the Band-Aid off.
yeah. Let's start actually with Emma Stone. So Emma Stone breaks Meryl Streep's record to become the youngest woman to reach 7 Oscar nominations. And because she also gets nominated as a producer for
Yeah, so she
Begonia
has
as well.
2 producer nominations and 5 acting nominations.
Um, so like that's not necessarily a surprise that she gets in. They clearly love her a lot, but there's one huge caveat with this category. So break it down, Shadan. I mean, I guess you already did earlier in the conversation to some degree. Lots of
Uh-huh.
billboards,
Yeah.
lots of parties.
Yeah.
It really just comes down to that. It's as simple as she just played the game.
I really think so, Jade. I mean, what else are we gonna say that it is? I'm genuinely asking because I see a comment saying that like people were predicting her, and I totally see why. I mean, I should have predicted her. It was foolish of me not to. But what else would I think what it is like people just like Kate Hudson. There's something to be said for somebody who's, charming and sweet. And
Mm-hmm.
I said this to you and Dave earlier. I'm just going to pretend that the nomination is for How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days and move on with my life because oh my God, that movie. That movie made me so upset, JD. You don't understand. I really hate that movie so much.
Yeah, I mean, I like it's really frustrating to me that this is where it ends up because 2025, and look, Best Actress is deep every year, but it did feel like 2025 was especially deep. Now, some of those that I would put up at the top, like I don't think they were ever going to be in the conversation necessarily. Um, so that's understandable. But you also had a performance like Jennifer Lawrence in Die My Love. And that is a polarizing movie. It's Lynn Ramsey, but she did play the game. And she's clearly beloved as well. How many times has she been nominated? Three, four times already? So it's not as if she has been an outsider this whole time. I mean, she did step away for a few years. And just as a side tangent here, real quick, her being on the press tour for the last few months has been one of the major highlights of this whole award season. Everywhere she goes, there's some sort of viral clip that goes
When
around that's
I
just
when I
deeply
tell
hilarious.
you, JD, the Jennifer Lawrence has probably single-handedly cured my depression. Like the amount of times where I'm just like in a bad mood and I'll just Google like Jennifer Lawrence
Yeah.
interview compilations and just watch them and feel better about the world. Like I love her so much. And it makes me so sad that she's like, oh, I had to tone it down because people were getting annoyed with me. No, they weren't,
I
Jennifer.
like,
The world just sucks. We love you.
yeah,
Come on, Chasing
exactly.
Gold. Talk to me.
I never got tired of it. I just
Yeah,
wanted more. That's why like her
exactly.
being around for this press tour has been incredible. And I think she gives one of the best performances. She was in my personal five for
I
best
mean,
actress.
listen, JD, you started by saying there are 30 movies that you could think of, that you would have put
Mhm.
in over F1. I could probably think of 30 people that I would have put in over Kate Hudson. Again, I adore Kate Hudson. Again, her rom-coms have been a huge source of emotional support. You guys can see a thread throughout this whole thing, okay?
Yeah.
But like, no, I mean,
Yeah.
Tessa Thompson, incredible. Amanda Seyfried, incredible. I mean, there's so many international
Mhm.
women that weren't even part of the conversation at all. The voice of Henry Job, it was just an accident. Like incredible,
Mhm.
incredible performers, nowhere to be seen.
Well,
So
and that's again because I do understand that again some of the performances that I would consider to be at the top, they were never going to be in the conversation. For example, Susan Shardy in Unbecoming a Guinea-Fowl. That was never going to be
yeah,
in the conversation. A performance that I think should be in the conversation for sure. Unfortunately, I think another one of those is Jodie Comer in 28 Years Later.
I was just gonna
Maybe in
say
a five for
she
me.
she may have been like supporting, I guess, but she was incredible. I watched that film and
Yeah.
was so shocked that her name remembered. But here's the thing,
Mhm.
like you mentioned Jennifer Lawrence again, like that is a film that was distributed by Mubi. Like yeah, they had success with The Substance last year, but that's a really small distributor.
Mhm.
Focus Features has a proven track record. They
Mhm.
are, speaking of stats, the first studio ever to get 3 Best Actress nominees in the same year.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm not surprised that Shardy or Jodie Comer get left out ultimately, or another one that like it technically got a release in early January, but all of the voters would have had access to it in December. Is Kristen Stewart's The Chronology of Water, and Imogen Poots gives easily one of the top five performances of the year, as far as I'm concerned. But again, I understand why that one goes under the radar. Jennifer Lawrence was everywhere. She was playing the game. She was out there. It's a voice and a face that people and voters recognize, and yet they still turn her away. And again, I think it just has to come down to the fact that that film was so polarized, or they just tend to prefer the fluffiness of something like Song Sung Blue, where Die My Love it's a very challenging movie, admittedly. But
Well,
also, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You was also challenging. In fact, those two films are almost the same in so many ways, except one of them has a much more dour ending than the other. That's really the only difference. So it's interesting that Rose Byrne gets in, but Jennifer Lawrence doesn't. I don't know. It's a fascinating conversation to be had, but
I
still, I
mean, I
think
think there's a
Lawrence.
there's a lot of variables that are at play here, and they sort of just didn't come. Made the odds were not in her favor. Ha ha ha. This, but no, because if you think about it, like Lynn Ramsey films have never really done well at the Academy. Tilda Swinton
No,
famously snubbed
no,
for We
yeah,
Need to Talk About Kevin. So like I think that's part of it. Her films don't connect there as much
yeah.
as they should. And JD, there's a big elephant that we're not talking about here, which is like
Well,
with everything going on in the world right now, I think people would rather vote for a film like Song Sung Blue or like a film that makes them feel good about themselves, that's light and fluffy and easier to watch than something like Dynamite Love. And another point that I want to bring up that I feel like
well, hold on. Can I push back against
yeah,
that real fast though?
push back, go for it.
Okay. Of look at the other four nominees. The other four nominees, of those four, tell me which one is fluffy and not at all challenging and difficult to watch.
That's very fair. But
like all four of those in some way are like, holy crap, this like Hamnet, what Jessie Buckley did, what she did to me in Hamnet, I can't even describe on this podcast because we're trying to be PG-13. Like she obliterated me in ways that I can't even begin to articulate. Rose Byrne is like, talk about sophistication and nuance in that film. Reinsva and Sentimental Value, also deeply sophisticated, and Emma Stone in Begonia is just an out there performance. And I think it's the best performance, ironically, that she's done with Lanthimos, but really has no chance at winning here.
I totally agree. Can I just be really honest for a second? When Emma Stone, and first of all, Amanda Seyfried robbed in the comments. Yes, she was robbed. I 1,000% agree. If I was Amanda Seyfried, I would just be crushed right now and like going a little bit insane.
And I feel like, because when we did the In Session Film Awards like a few weeks ago, like there was a major theme that arose in 2025, right? And that is parenthood and grief. That manifested in so many different ways, right? Whether you're talking about
Chasing the Gold about that. Not to plug Chasing the Gold, but we did a great episode about that with Jay. I love that episode.
Yes. So you had Hamnet, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, The Chronology of Water, The Testament of Anne Lee, Die My Love, Sarat, The Voice of Henry Jab, Train Dreams. 28 years later, I like in a subtle way, The Secret Agent, giving the coda of that film. Like there's like so many, like that was the theme of the year, parenthood and grief, and mothers especially. There were lots of motherhood and grief. And The Testament of Anne Lee is obviously a big part of that conversation. So Amanda Seyfried just fit the bill, like just fit the theme with the rest of these nominees that we have here. So she probably should have been the one to get in there. I agree.
I mean, as somebody's also saying in the comments, not a good year for Searchlight at all this year. I'm not really sure. I mean, no, you want to talk about, if you want a film similar to Song Sung Blue, but much better than Song Sung Blue, Rental Family, this sort of, make you feel good family story, Rental Family is right there. But where was I going? See, I talk about Amanda Seyfried and I get upset. Oh, something that I want to bring up is, and again, not to get too geeky inside baseball here, but keep in mind that I think awards voters, they're watching a lot of stuff via screener. And so something like Song Sung Blue is going to play better on a screener than something like The Testament of Anne Lee. Testament of Anne Lee, you need to be in a theater sort of locked in. Something like, I don't know, House of Dynamite played much better in a theater. Frankenstein, in my opinion, played much better in a theater. So I think that's also something that could be a factor for some of these. No Other Choice, also a film that I think if you're not like locked into that film, you will get so lost. The first time I saw it, I fell asleep and I like woke up and I was like, what's happening? I completely lost the thread because I was like dozing off for maybe 5 minutes.
No, but I love that. Like I love when movies are challenging, when they don't feel the need to, hold your hand through it all, which I loved about that film. It's what I love so much about Sentimental Value. Sentimental Value, like there are so many ambiguities throughout that movie. Like all the clues are there, but you have to sort of piece it together as it goes. Like it just doesn't put it together for you at all. And I love that. Like, and I love that it's getting that screenplay is even getting recognized, in that regard. So there is one comment I wanted to highlight here.
Yeah, and I do just want to highlight again, like a lot of times we're talking about quality, and unfortunately, sometimes quality isn't the only thing that comes into play. Because I would love to think I live in a world where these award voters are sitting and engaged and like ready to be challenged by these films, and I don't think they are entirely. They're not. So
yeah, I wanted to highlight this. Um, best cinematography. So, how do we feel about best cinematography? Like, I like it overall. I like it overall. I think some of the year's biggest hitters are gone, with 28 years later and Resurrection most notably. But again, I don't know how much of a realistic shot they had. 28 years later feels like it had more of a real opportunity if it was pushed at all during award season. But as Shadan noted earlier, that clearly wasn't the case. But I do think they should have. I think that's a huge missed opportunity because it's easily one of the best shot films of the year. And Resurrection, as I noted at the In Session Film Awards, I think is far and away the winner. Like nothing even comes close to that as far as I am concerned. But again, I don't know how much of a realistic, it didn't really have many realistic opportunities there. But Sinners getting
And I,
in, love that.
yeah.
Train Dreams, One Battle, Marty Supreme. Frankenstein is really the only one here that, while I do like ultimately the cinematography to Frankenstein, I don't think it's its biggest strength. There are certainly others I prefer, but on the whole, yeah, I mean, it's good. This is a good category, but again, it's also one of those where you have 5 for 5 as far as Best Picture nominees go.
Right.
Like, it would have been really cool to maybe include one or two from the that are on the outside looking in as far as Best Picture is concerned.
I think we got a comment about this. Forgive me if we missed it. I think Train Dreams is potentially a upset to Sinners here. There's a lot of passion for that cinematography, and I'm
Yeah,
just really
right
happy to
here,
see.
I believe. Yeah,
Yep, I was
yeah,
just
Diego.
Diego. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I really hope that maybe there's a world where it secretly upsets. As much as I'm rooting for Autumn as well, I'm really torn because I love the cinematography of Train Dreams. And our last commenter, Prince, was pointing out that he lives in the UK, so he see things like 3 months late. I live in Houston, so I might as well be in the UK. Because let me tell you, if you don't live in New York and LA, and you don't have
Yeah.
Critics' Choice, that like
Oh my gosh.
you're out in the
Yeah.
wild by yourself. So I too will be seeing Resurrection a lot later than I
Yeah.
would have liked to, but I'm really looking forward to it because I've heard great things.
Yeah. Our editor in chief, Dave Giannini, lives in the middle of Kentucky. If he was here, he would have a lot to say on this topic because he doesn't get anything on time. He always gets things a month or two late. That's what happens when you live in the middle of Kentucky. Here's another comment for you, Shadan. Could Surratt pull a zone of interest in sound? First time all female sound engineer, which is really cool. I do really like that a lot.
Well, it's interesting because when I saw the top of this comment, I didn't see the Ex Machina comparison, and the first thing that I thought of was Ex Machina. And let me tell you, sometimes when we see these sort of one-off passionate nominations, like if you have enough passion to get there, once your field is not like whittled down to 5, yes, you have the entire academy voting and not just your branch. But yeah, not out of the question at all. That we could
Yeah.
see Surratt getting mentioned. And I have to say, just to get really nerdy, I was interviewing these sound designers and they were telling me about how sound is becoming a little bit more flashy now. Like people kind of like these films that play with sound, and sound isn't as subtle as it used to be sort of traditionally. And I think Surratt does that very well. And I think sound
Mm-hmm.
designers are paying attention and really advocating for it. So
Mm-hmm.
am I going to predict it? Probably not, but I might be, very much in contention. It's tricky with Sinners because they love musical films. As somebody else in our comment has pointed out, though, editing and sound go very well together. The sound in F1 is very good. There's clearly a subset of passion for F1, so there's a world where F1
Mm-hmm.
ends up winning that editing sound combination for sure.
Yeah. And again, I think that's where I wish they would get outside the box a little bit more with that, because I think of something like If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. The sound design in that
Oh
film is actually
my
very important to that movie.
JD,
And it's so good.
the thing that I love Rose Byrne, but other than Rose Byrne, I was like the sound design it literally drives
It's,
you crazy. It
yeah.
makes your skin crawl. Like it's like,
Yeah. It's
you
vital.
know,
Vital to that
it's
movie.
vital, absolutely. And I know Anemone was a movie that I didn't love, admittedly, but like the sound design in that film was incredible. This really beautiful Train Dreams as well. A lot of I'm a total sound dork, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of really good sound this
Warfare,
year.
I think should
Warfare,
have been, yeah.
yeah, not even on the short list. I love, yeah,
Crazy.
incredible sound.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's where it, like there are some really inspiring choices for that category. That, to your point, it like I'm glad to hear that sound engineers, voters are paying attention to those things more. And again, I just wish we can expand beyond what we think the best picture field is, and
Yeah,
look for some of those more unconventional choices. With you, Ian, as far as cinematography, going back to that real quick,
me
Train
too.
Dreams probably my pick for that. Especially because Train Dreams isn't going to win anything else on the night, so this could be its only win. Now, ultimately, like there's a part of me that still wants Sinners to win just because of that narrative and how cool that is. And I really like Sinners. Was both Sinners and Train Dreams were also my personal five. So I would be really happy with either of them.
I
But
mean, yeah.
like Sinners is gonna win a lot though. Like Train Dreams,
Mhm.
this is it. So like if that's its only win, I would absolutely love it for sure.
But again, to go back to like Academy trends and to again your beloved doppelganger and twin, like the reason why I wasn't predicting Sean Baker to win 4 Oscars last year was because I was like, oh, the only other person that's done that is Walt Disney. Sean Baker isn't Walt Disney. Here we go. You know,
That's true.
I didn't predict Jamie Lee Curtis for supporting actress because I was like, they're not giving you know, everywhere all at once like 6 above the line Oscars. That never happened before. It's not going to happen. Well, stats are made to be broken, my friend, and I think you know, they've
Yeah.
been clustering their nominations, they've been clustering their wins, and I think there's like this mindset of, oh well, they can give, you know, Benicio supporting, and so they can give supporting actors to somebody else. I don't think it works
Mm.
like that. I think when they just like a film, they just go check all the way down.
They do. Um, all right. So here's a comment. Switching gears slightly here. Will Conan have a skit with Rose Byrne? I mean, has to, right?
Yeah, they
She
have
has to be a
to
part of it.
yeah, they got to redo the therapy scene at the Oscars. I
Yeah.
think would be phenomenal.
Surely that's how they're going to open, right? Before he even comes on stage, there'll be a pre-recorded
Yeah.
bit that they do together. One would think. Yeah, totally there with you.
Hire us to produce your award show, and we'll happily get that
Yeah.
going for everybody. Yeah.
Look, it took us almost an hour to get here, but let's talk about score. So this is my favorite category. Let's talk about score. Before I give my thoughts, though, Shadan, I want to give you the floor. What do you think of the
Okay.
five? What do you think of the five
Just to
here?
get this out of my head, to go back to the costumes for just a second, I think what did Wicked in terms of costumes was the sex cardigan, because that was the only thing that anyone was talking about in terms of costumes for that film. So
Okay.
I actually, yeah, I really have been thinking about this a lot, and I should have noted it. But I'm telling you that's because Amanda was saying, "Oh, it's the wedding dress." No, it wasn't the wedding dress; it was the sex cardigan. But to go
Yeah,
back to
probably.
score, I loved seeing Jerskin Hendricks here for Begonia. That's one of my favorite nominations of the morning. Such a cool nomination for him. Love that Max Richter. I mean, I'm obsessed with The Leftovers, one of my favorite shows of all time. To see him get a nomination is very cool. I mean, Johnny Greenwood, incredible. Yorhead Goranson, who's gonna, you know, Hans Zimmer for Frankenstein. That's the fifth one, right?
Not Hans Zimmer.
I
That
mean, not
is
Hans Zimmer. Sorry,
Desplat, right?
Alexander Desplat.
Yeah.
One legend swap for another. One battle after another. I would
Yeah.
have,
Yes.
I would have probably, you know, picked someone else. Give me a second, and the names will come to me. But
Mm.
it's a solid category overall. What do you think? I actually, the Hans Zimmer of it all, I think the score for F1 was my favorite part of that film. If there's any part of
Yeah.
that film I would have nominated that missed out, it would have been the score, actually.
And again, if it would have gotten in here, I would have been okay with it. Of the F1 nominations, sound and score would have been the two that I would have been able, like, I would have looked at those and go, okay, that makes sense. The
Mm-hmm.
others, scratching my head over the others. But sound and score would have made sense. Now, as much as I love Zimmer and I do really like that score, I don't think it's top 5. It's in a 10 for me, probably, but I do think there are better scores out there from 2025. Now, that said, I would take it over Frankenstein and Begonia. I do think it's a better score than those two. Although Begonia, again, I just really like how Lanthimos goes back to his dogtooth sensibilities with that movie, and the score is very reflective of that as well. So it is kind of weird and unique. So even though that wouldn't be in a 5 for me, I do admire and appreciate that score because it is weird. Frankenstein, classic display, and I think it's effective for that movie, but I don't think it's better than something like Bryce Dessner in Train Dreams. That's the score I've been championing all season long. And my winner for best score, and I'm kind of surprised that it's not here, given
Marty
that,
Supreme.
yes, is Marty Supreme.
Yeah.
So like I was a little shocked by that. I was less shocked by Bryce Dessner missing just because he seemingly hasn't been in the conversation much, at least in terms of some of the previous awards that we've already seen, which I think is very unfortunate.
Well,
Rest assured,
Jay-Z, oh my God, y'all, I'm drinking coffee, okay? This has just been a very
That's what I had before we got on here too.
very long day. No, but Dessner though, JD, still an Oscar nominee for Best Original Song, so he still has an Oscar nomination.
So he's still still in there for song. That is true.
But I would have loved to see him as a double nominee for score as well, for sure.
Yeah.
But Daniel Lewerton missing for Marty Supreme, one of the big shockers of the morning, given how well that movie did overall. But Marty Supreme did underperform in terms of nominations. We can talk about that a little bit more. I would have loved to see the Seurat score. I had that predicted.
That would have been inspired. Yeah.
It would have been really, really cool. So
yeah.
Any other since you are a score nerd, any other favorites? I mean, my favorite score of the year was last year's winner, Daniel Blumberg, not even getting shortlisted. So
yeah, the Blumberg score was really great. Like the Mastermind score, I think, is excellent, but that was never going to be a realistic option for this. But and what's interesting about the Mastermind is that it's this jazz score, and forgive me, I can't recall off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. The composer, but he's not a traditional composer. He's just a jazz musician that Kelly Reichardt knew. And I don't know what that relationship is, but it was his first ever score that he's ever done for a movie. And it is really, really, really good for what that film is trying to accomplish. So like that was one of my favorites. I do believe that was Brendan's score of the year, if I'm not mistaken. And then I would have really loved to see them go way out of the box. So like in my personal 5, again, this was never going to be a realistic option for this category. So I'm not mad that it missed. It's just one of my personal favorites, and that is the Thunderbolts score from Son Lux is in my top 5. Again, I'm not mad that missed. That was never going to be in here, but as far as my personal favorite scores of the year, that's certainly one that's up there for sure.
The composer for the Mastermind is Rob Mazurek. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Really cool. Also, I just want to shout out this comment that says 100% agree that movies like Frankenstein should be illegal to watch on your phone. It's a theater movie.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Go to a theater to see that. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I love that as well. Let's see. Had Train Dreams as my 5th instead of Begonia. It came through in song though. Yes. Yeah, man, I really wish one of Marty or Seurat or even F1. Like I would have taken F1 over Frankenstein for sure.
Thank you guys so much for the comments. We'll get to all of them or as many of them as we can. Since we are getting comments, I really want to ask about documentary feature because that was my weakest category and I would love to get more insight on what you guys think happened there for some of these nominees because I only got 2 of the 5. I only got Mr. Nobody Against Putin and The Perfect Neighbor. So, I thought I was going to be silly for predicting cover up, or for not predicting cover up, I should say. That didn't get in at all. And then I was underestimating the Alabama solution. So I guess I just missed Netflix, like getting two, I guess. Or I picked the wrong one. I don't know. It's just a crazy category. So if anyone has any insight on or opinions on docs this year, I would love to know.
Yeah, see, so documentary is interesting. I have not seen the Alabama solution or Cutting Through the Rock, so I don't want to sit here and go, nope, those shouldn't have been in. I honestly can't really speak to them. I do love that Come See Me in the Good Light got in. Awesome doc. Really love that one a lot. The Perfect Neighbor is my vote for best doc of the year,
Me
which is
too.
why
Me
I
too.
am super shocked that it got in because this
Yeah.
branch famously loves to
Mm-hmm.
take the front runner that we all think is going to win and then be like, nope, screw you guys. We're not even nominating it. But it got in. Like it's just that undeniable, I guess. So
Well, and to go back to song, because I watched "Come See Me in the Good Light," and I have to say I loved it. It was really really well done.
mhm.
If the big C is a trigger for anyone out there, tread carefully because I didn't know anything about what it was about, and I just clicked on it and I started watching it, and ooh boy! So the subject matter is heavy in that
Okay.
regard. Be careful there. But the song, all of this to say, the Sarah Bareilles and Brandy Carlisle song is beautiful. I would have
Mm,
really liked to see that in there. Also, I saw a comment earlier asking if this is going to be Diane Warren's year. Oh boy, do
no.
I love me some Diane Warren. No, it's not going to be her year. Uh,
Yeah.
I hope I see that happen while I'm on this earth, while she is still with us. I would love to see a competitive Diane Warren Oscar win. JD, can I just tell you real quick? I'm also a contributing editor at Awards Buzz, and we were doing our like
Yeah.
Oscar whatever reactions podcast there, right? And they all live in LA. They're all super cool. They've met everybody, whatever. And
Yeah.
so they were, and I've also gotten to interview Diane Warren. But that's my point. Is like all of us we were like, who got to talk to Diane Warren? And even little old me in Houston was like, yeah, I've interviewed Diane Warren. Like everyone's interviewed Diane Warren. She has talked
Yeah.
to everybody. She was out there giving me life advice, literally being like, oh, you're so young, you should do this, that, and the other. Like she is like the oh my god.
Yeah.
I love Diane Warren. I would love to see her win one day. She should have won for The Hunting Ground. I mean, she should have 3 Oscars by now. But especially for The Hunting Ground, if we want to talk about a more recent nomination, but it's not her. I mean, the K-pop golden train is just
Yeah.
too strong.
Golden
But
is gonna win. Yeah,
God
100%.
bless her.
Yeah. That like did you hear the pop in the room when Golden was announced? Like it
Mm-hmm.
won right there in the moment.
Yeah,
Like it
yeah,
was
for
unreal.
sure. That is so funny. No, and especially after the Golden Globe speech was such a beautiful speech from the
Yeah.
Golden team talking about how they wanted to have success as sort of these K-pop demon idols. Okay,
Yeah.
K-pop idols.
Yeah.
Wow. But and so it's a real beautiful guys. I swear I'm a very articulate person. This is what happens when you write like 10 articles a day. You go a little bit insane. Um but
Yeah.
yeah, up, up,
I
up.
know.
It was our moment.
Uh
Yeah, yeah.
it's yeah, exactly Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, that song is
Sam,
100% gonna win.
have Sam be your co-host. I feel like he would be more articulate than me at this point. I'm losing my mind.
He could definitely talk about K-pop demon hunters for sure.
Yeah,
No, that song, there's no stopping it. That
there's
song
no
is
stopping it,
100% gonna win.
and there's
And
no
if it,
stopping the film either. I should say.
no stopping the film. Yeah, and if it wasn't golden, it would be I Lied to You. That would be number
Mm-hmm.
2. I would imagine. And the scene of the year, by the way, as far as I'm concerned, the scene of the year, I Lied to You. That whole sequence, unbelievable. Sam says, yes, make me co-host.
Yes, yes. I
Yeah.
endorse that message. I have no problem with that. I'm gonna fire
Um,
myself off this off this live stream.
yeah. So, okay, before we get out of here, we had talked about doing an hour here. We've gone over an hour. Obviously, there's many more categories that we could talk about. Is there anything specific that you want to hit on that we haven't talked about? We haven't really got into screen or even director, like Chloe Zhao getting in. for director once again. And like this is her second nomination. Of course, she won last time. Probably not going to win. This is probably Coogler's year or PTA, but still for her to get in. Like, what do you think of director? What do you think of those five? Well, I guess let's just go there real quick.
I mean, it's interesting. I had Panahi in my director 5 all year long. I did take him out. Not to be like I went 5 for 5, but I did. I know I'm being silly about the fact that I should get fired, but I really am good at predicting these things. But so I'm not surprised with what we got. But yeah, I really would have liked to see Panahi in there. But on the other hand, like JD, I mean, who's gonna argue against any of these? I think they were all really good. It's just a really strong year. I mean, like I'm not mad at Josh Safdie getting in there. Like, who would have been your personal of the like realistic contenders? Obviously, there's outside people that never had a shot, but like of the realistic
Danny Boyle.
contenders, yeah.
Like Danny Boyle and By Gone would have been in my 5. They are in my 5, as well as Kelly Reichardt. But again, not realistic. Of the 5, so Joachim Trier is the one I would remove here. And not that he isn't deserving, but Sentimental Value for me is a writing masterclass. It is a storytelling masterclass. And some of that is really great editing for sure. But I think Sentimental Value, its strengths are its screenplay and the performances. Joachim Trier as a director does a great job, but he doesn't have to do anything extraordinary as a filmmaker just because those other elements are so good. That film's baseline, its floor was really high before they even began. Now he does do some really great things as a director that enhances that film for sure. I'm not trying to discredit him, but I do think that what Panahi brings to It Was Just an Accident from a directorial perspective is a little bit more nuanced. And of course, there's the personal angle of it. That is such a deeply personal film for him, which is why its screenplay is also really great. And certainly worthy of a nomination as well. But I do really love those directorial choices. Like one of the things I talked about when we reviewed it, that is, it's a sensory experience, because characters talk about how I can smell him. That's how I know that it's him. Mm-hmm. Or they touch his scars and there's focusing on the scars. Or like, I know the voice, and he focuses on the audio. So like, there's just different aspects to that film from a directorial angle that I think warrants it a little bit more. And then there's of course that closing scene, the squeak is such a big part of that movie. So that's who I would have replaced as Trier.
You just became my mom's favorite person at In Session Film. I really I don't know what I completely agree. I'm disappointed, but I mean, the thing with Trier is I think maybe he was a little bit had an overdue narrative going for him as well, because The Worst Person in the World is so beloved and has remained beloved.
I'm happy for him.
Yeah. I do want to address this comment real quick. Documentary having so many populist films making it reminds me of when animated film opened up to general voters if they sign up and watch the films. Yes, that is such a great point. I completely agree. This goes back to passion. I think when you have this sort of open approach, I think it means less people are going to vote. And I think as a result, these sort of populist things that get people excited and passionate is what's going to break through. I completely agree with that insight. I think that's spot on.
Yeah. All starts with the passion.
It all starts with the passion. Yeah. And we keep talking about can sinners take it? I think there's more passion for Sinners, right, JD, as opposed to One Battle?
I mean, that's where this becomes an interesting argument is, it felt like it was One Battle's to lose all season long. And maybe this is the Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl for the football fans out there, if there are any. If you remember that famous Super Bowl, they were up 28-3 going into halftime, and then here come the Patriots, and They brought the passion, if you will, and they ended up winning that Super Bowl. Sorry, Jay Ledbetter, if you're listening to this later on. Um, Maybe that's where we're at because Sinners might be having a bit of a comeback right now,
Yeah.
and
And I think
because the passion is very much there, clearly.
and we had a comment about like what happens if Sinners potentially wins at SAG. I think there's a huge possibility Sinners could win at SAG. I
Yes.
keep talking over and over again about how the SAG voting body has changed, and so
Mhm.
it's not just the actors anymore, and that it could really benefit Sinners. So like Sinners is very much in play here because if Sinners wins at SAG, like it's on JD. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it's really on. I think we're in for a really interesting race. It
Hmm.
does remind me for a lot of different. I mean, they're not. This is not a great comp, but I keep coming back to Moonlight, where people were like, "Oh yeah, I know La La Land, like it's this that," but the one that I really like is Sinners. Obviously, Sinners is a much bigger juggernaut, but
Yeah.
and it says it will come down to SAG. I could see Sinners also winning PGA, similar to The Big
The
Short.
Big Short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason why, for my fellow Oscar nerds out there, like the reason why PGA is a big deal is because it's also ranked choice like the Oscars. It's a similar, one
Yeah.
to 10 ranking system. So that is like very telling if a certain film wins PGA. It hasn't been as predictive in recent years, but PGA will also be a huge marker. Like there's so much. That's the thing. We keep talking about a lot of these categories like it's over. It's not even remotely
Mhm.
close.
What if
What if
PGA
PG?
and BAFTA are split on those two?
Then it's gonna be a great Oscar day. Let me tell you, I know that would be incredible. And one other point that I also really want to bring up, though, that's interesting, JD. Speaking of the guilds, I think I brought this up on Chasing the Gold, but I want to reiterate a brilliant point by the great Ann Thompson, which is that we keep talking about how the Academy is going more and more international. Another missing piece of this, though, is that the guilds, like the PGA, like the DGA, like SAG, that we are using as our prediction markers are still very American, which is why we may be seeing those guilds becoming less and less predictive. And why I think BAFTA is becoming more and more predictive of the Oscars. Like I'm saying, so goes BAFTA, so goes supporting actress. BAFTA could be telling in a lot of these races. So there's still
Yeah.
a lot of ground to make. Yeah, I don't see the names on the commenters, but whoever the EDM 331,
Hmm.
yeah, you have your family in this chat, JD. This might be my mom because I love this comment. She says, it was just, or they say, I don't know who this is. It's not actually my mom, but it was just an accident. Missing picture felt like when Brokeback Mountain lost a crash.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, made my night. I agree. It was really, really sad to see it was just an accident. Missing picture. Yeah, just
Yeah. Well, we can wind down. I would love to do more of these as we lead up to the Oscars. This was a lot of fun. Certainly a lot to talk about here. The last note I want to say, just circling back to Jafar Panahi real quick, and just I think maybe some of my slight disappointment that he doesn't get in for director or the film misses out on Best Picture. I still love that he is nominated. He's been a favorite filmmaker of mine for forever. And I love him because of the art, obviously. I never really expected him to ever be in the conversation for awards. Yet here we are, and it's for a film that is clearly personal to him when he's wrestling with these deep braided thoughts on violence and vengeance and everything that is great about that movie. And the great irony is that after all this is over, he is going back to Iran to be arrested for that movie. Crazy. Absolutely insane. When we talk about brave filmmaking, that is the quintessential definition of it. And God bless him. I don't know how much of a chance he has in that category. It's probably Joachim Trier or Ryan Coogler. But if he's somehow upset, and maybe he could just because of that narrative, I don't know. Either way, I hope it's a huge talking point. I don't think we should forget that. I know that it's easy to get caught up in the sinners of it all and the one battle of it all, but that narrative is insane to me. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I
And
also love this question. Any chance Mescal Oscar myth boosts his chances at BAFTA against Stellan Skarsgård? Potentially. I mean, we still need to see how BAFTA nominations shake out. Like maybe Delroy Lindo makes a surprise nomination there. I'm just going to be honest, BAFTA, not a great track record with nominating nominees of color. I would love to see that change soon and very quickly, but that's what I say. I think BAFTA could throw us some surprises there. I think generally maybe the mescal train has sort of left for the year. I feel like they feel like you said, JD, there'll be more chances to.
There'll be more. Yeah, that's
there'll
fine.
be more, and it's Jessie Buckley's movie, deservedly so. But
Yeah,
maybe what chance? Any chance? There's a chance. I would say 10%, 20%. Don't rule it out completely, but the momentum is clearly elsewhere. And I again thank you guys so much for the comments. Again, Chasing the Gold. I would love to do more of these too with you, JD, but there's a Chasing the Gold that comes out every week. So if you guys have more of these questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm at Shadan Larkey all over social media. You can DM me, leave them in the comments of previous episodes that we've done. I will happily address them in a future episode or in reply back to the comments. I really like doing that, as long as the comments are come from a place of love, as these comments have. I will happily address
treat it in
them.
good faith. We'll have fun with you. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And if I could just plug a few episodes of Chasing the Gold that I'm particularly proud of, that I think tie into these comments very well. One, I did a shorts podcast with Joey Moser that was a lot of fun. So if you want to know more about the films that got nominated and shortlisted and what other great shorts there are, we didn't touch on the shorts, but a really great year for short films, JD. So I highly recommend them. And so, a great predictions podcast that touches on some of these. Obviously, Rob and I got some things wrong, but we dig into some of these questions there. And then in the Chasing the Gold reactions podcast as well. But yeah, anytime you guys have questions, let me know, because then that also helps me tailor the show a little bit of what people are talking about, because on the main show, because you guys are sort of insulated a little bit, right? I mean, you don't have to be as reactive about what's happening, but the Oscar race is shifting so much. So if I know what you guys are interested in talking about, that'll help me sort of address them and make things more exciting. So I highly recommend send me your questions and comments and come on the show. I would love to have guests.
Yes. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys. Let Shadan know what you guys want to talk about. We'll certainly make it work. I do appreciate you, Shadan. I do want to end on this comment because I thought it was very funny that, next year, just hand the award to Nolan and we'll do an award for everybody else for best director.
Oh, for Odyssey?
For the Odyssey. Yeah, that's going to be certainly one of my most anticipated films of the year for sure. I will also just quickly plug, since we're talking about awards, the In Session Film Awards we did a few years. We've done it for a lot of years, but we did a few weeks ago for 2025. It was a lot of fun. Some of the nominees we talked about tonight crossover. We also have a lot more, actually. It was a great time. If you want to go and check all of that out on YouTube, or you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. All right. I think that'll do it. Thanks, Shadan. Really appreciate you. Thanks for all the comments, everybody. This was really great. Sam, actually, yes, that is the comment to end on movies. Yeah. Absolutely movies. I love that. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Have a great weekend, everybody. We will see you all next time.